Hey, Tony Gassins here, popping in. Now listen, I just saw a picture of the lady who it said she was driving 90 miles an hour and say she killed 5 people. And that is just, man. And in the courtroom, looked like she boo-hoo crying. And it just goes to show you that you never know what somebody's going through, and you never know where somebody's mind is at. And so for me, I look and I'm like, okay, this lady could be right next to you. It's the person right next to you in the grocery store is capable of that. The person you're sleeping with is capable of that. The person you're dating is capable of that. The person you're married to is capable of that. We really got to start paying attention and taking mental health issues, personality issues, wounds from childhood issues. We got to take all of that stuff extremely serious. Extremely serious. And the way the human mind is, the human mind really, it feeds on itself in the sense of risk, reward, all of the things where it's one thing I noticed. If we don't get a lesson, like if we don't have a lesson, if we don't have consequences, if we don't experience the repercussions of our actions, if what we do can just be done and we get a slap on the wrist, we continue to do it and we get worse with it. And I want you to think about that. Take some time for a second and think about that across the board. So what this lady did, this lady has lived her whole life. She lived her whole life. And then to come to this point. So how are you capable of this and you go through your whole life? Like, it's the question is asked, like, why didn't she crash out at 5? Why didn't she crash out at 10, at 15, at 20? Like, how do you live this long and be capable of that? But it goes to show you just humans, and when we are doing things or operating in a certain way and we're not being held accountable. And so what they found is they couldn't find any substances. The post I seen said they couldn't find any substances in her system, that she was not under the influence, that she was fully aware and cognizant, and that she had been in 13 previous reckless driving crashes. She's been in 13 other crashes. And I think about that now. How many crashes have you been in that you were at fault? You know, I probably could think of 2, and they were little slight fender benders where nothing happened to the car in front of me. In my entire life, from 16, driving at 16 to now 38 years old, I done been the way I done tapped somebody in the bumper 2 times my entire life. So that go to show you now, this lady done been in 13 crashes, and then she do this. But see, guess what? If you driving bitter, if you driving angry, if you driving frustrated, if you driving reckless, and you get into a crash and nothing happened, and that gave you like some type of release, and then you get into another crash, 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 another crash. Guess what? That next crash took the life of 4 people. And one of them was an 8.5-month fetus, it was written. The lady was pregnant. So I think that's why it would have been 6. Or maybe that could have been the 5th. But first I read 6, now I say 5. And so think about that now. She got charged with 6 counts. So it says 6. So that post, the last one I just seen. Nah, but this one, ABC News, 4 days ago, say 5. So maybe it's 6 now, because maybe it's a 6th person. And so listen, if I see somebody in 13 crashes, and I want you to not just look at this in the sense of this right here, but think about this in your life. Think about this in your relationship. So if somebody cheats on you, what are the consequences? If they get a slap on the wrist, if all you do is cry, if you just cry, that's a slap on the wrist. So then you get cheated on again. If you cry this time and maybe you throw something into the wall, slap on the wrist, get cheated on again. Now see, the first time you get cheated on, if you leave them, if you cut it cold turkey and you leave, that's such a harsh thing. And it ain't just you leave and you come back tomorrow. No, you gone for a couple weeks at the least. They got to beg, they got to plead, they got to sign up for coaching, they got to sign up for therapy, they got to talk to the pastor, they calling your mama, they calling your daddy, they calling your best friend. Like they really get took through the wrong. They get wrung out. Now, if you take them back, it was so real that now it can jar them. Now that don't mean it's gonna change them now. I'm looking at these pictures. When I tell you this car, and then think about it. Think about it now. 6 people dead, and she's standing in court. She's standing in court. She living. People life taken. She living. This car's completely burnt to crisp. Just Google, lady drives 90 miles an hour and kills 6 people. These 2 cars completely burnt. They say she's facing up to 90 years. Guess what? At that point, as an adult, it's different if, you know, you worked 24 hours and you fell asleep. Different if somebody hit you. Different if you were self-driving in your Tesla, it lost control. But when you done been in 13 and then you driving 90 now, she was going 90. Yeah, you got to sit. You got to sit. You got to do them 90. You driving 90, you got to do them 90 years. But what this also show you now is that this go both ways. It ain't just men all the time. It's also women. What that show you is humans. That we have to recognize the signs. We got to recognize the signs, and we got to address the signs. We got to recognize the signs. You got to address the signs. If somebody you dealing with need therapy, you got to sign them up for therapy if they won't sign themselves up. You got to get away from them. You got to pull away. Your presence will reinforce the situation. You can't reinforce it. And see, sometimes we get to a place, sometimes humans will get to a place to where, and I remember this, when I was a toxic lover, every single time I would exhibit toxicity, I would take it up a notch. I would take it up a notch. If I exhibit the wrong behavior and the woman that I'm dealing with just stays, I'm taking it up a notch the next time. And it gets worse and worse and worse until it's ended. That's why you see, when you look at criminal activity, They go from petty crime to major crime. And they do not stop until they in prison or the grave. That is how this risk and repercussions or reward works. And so as the human, we will keep doing more and more and more to make a point, to send a message. So when you look at what happened, it's like, how can these 2 cars, I'm looking 2, 3 cars burnt to a crisp, how can that happen to them? And she in the court, look like they got a jacket on her, like a straight jacket or some type of jacket, and look like she got her arm wrapped up. Like, how in the world she live? How she lived through that? It's like, what type of spirit is operating in her to have her driving 90 miles? Now listen, this ain't no freak accident to where you going the speed limit. On the road that they was on, that speed limit wasn't more than 45. The type of road they was on, because of gas stations, it's like an intersection. That speed limit 45, 50 at the most. Probably could have been 35. She going 90. 99. Come on now. And so guess what? A message trying to be sent. Not getting the message, not getting the message, not getting the message. And that's what you, and reason why I'm touching on this now, reason why I'm touching on this is because you got to take and apply this in your life. This is a lesson on a large scale. Now, I typically don't talk on stuff like this, but I can't feel bad about talking about this here situation when somebody driving 90 miles an hour. And this is the thing. People can say, oh, mental health, and this and that. And yes, it could be mental health, but guess what? It's all of us capable of that. All of us capable of that. I was a coach to a couple that died in a crash. I had coached the man and the woman, and they died in a crash in Los Angeles from speeding. Car got up to 120 and went to go around a corner and flew off. Now, at that moment, what will possess someone to drive 120 miles an hour in like a 45, 50 mile an hour zone? It's either intoxication or anger. And so I know as a man, having been toxic, one of the things that men will do and women will do when you toxic, when you abusive, when you whatever, if you angry and you got the will, you try to scare that person you with. See, I understand these things because this is why I want you to understand. I'm sitting here living and I'm talking to you, but I done been through this stuff. I remember being in college and being on the phone and trying to fake like I was gonna kill myself. And I ran into a pole. I drove into a pole with my then girlfriend on speakerphone. The car was totaled. I got out without a scratch. See, when I'm talking to you from a place of understanding, of having been there. Now, how could I be that person at 19 years old and be this person at 38? You see what I'm telling you? We all capable of this stuff. We all capable. Now, when I told that car, I intentionally ran it off the road and ran into that pole on the right side of my car. I hit it on the passenger side. I knew what I was doing. I wasn't finna hit it right down the middle, and I wasn't finna hit it on my side because it could have took my life. So I'm sharing that with you, and this something that people have done stuff like that. It's other speakers that have done stuff like that, because you got to realize, if I could do it, that we all think about the stuff you done that you would never tell. If you did what I just said, somebody who calls me a narcissist, somebody who called me this and that, they'll take what I just said. They'll take my testimony, my admission, And they'll use, oh, I told you, look what he did. Listen, I ain't have to tell you that, but I'm telling you that, and I'm using myself as an example so you could understand the depths of this. And so what I see in that situation is a young lady who was unhinged, who wanted her way, who wanted to make a point, who had been trying to make a point, who had been trying to get her way, and she was going to do the extreme to scare the living daylights out of whoever she trying to get through to, whether it's a boyfriend, whether it's her mama or daddy, whether it's her boss, that she was trying to make a point, and she took the lives of 6 people. And guess what? Now she gonna get what she was asking for. And that's finna be some time to sit down. They finna sit her down. She finna get that 90. She finna get that 90. Because it ain't no excuse for it. And she a woman of color. Oh, you finna get that 90. You finna get that 90. You see what I'm saying? Listen, if you feeling a certain type of way, go get some therapy. Talk to somebody, get some coaching. Don't lose your mind. Don't lose your mind, because listen, you could be regular today and certifiably crazy tomorrow. Don't lose your mind. Do what it takes to get the help you need. And if you dealing with somebody and you see that they could be certified, that something off, get from around them. Get from around them. Stop playing with them. Stop playing with them. Because it's a certain level of crazy. It's a certain level of crazy where people will take their own life. They'll take your life. And that's why I tell people all the time. And of course, the clinicians will be mad at me using the phraseology I use when I say recognize crazy early. You can't play with it. When you see them little signs, don't play with it. If a person ain't trying to grow and trying to change and trying to be better, don't play with it. Do not play with it. Because it'll cost you. Now, this young lady, she done cost 6 other people their life. So guess what that also gonna do? That's finna cause brokenness and pain. That's finna create a cycle in all 6 of them families. It's finna create a cycle of trauma, of pain, of abandonment, of abuse, of hurt. And that's what the adversary come to do. The adversary come to steal, kill, and destroy. Now, granted, that woman could have lost her mind at the hands of a man. She could have lost her mind. Yes, you could be driven to that point. Now, with 13 different crashes, I don't know, something else could be going on. You would think after 4 or 5 crashes, they'll revoke your license and you can't drive no more. Like, you can't buy no car no more. You would think. They finna implement that now after this. A certain amount of crashes, they finna take your license. You can't even drive no more. Especially if you at fault. You can't even drive no more. You can't even buy no car. Your name in the system. The car dealership can't even sell you no car. They finna implement that now. But listen to me. You got to be able to see this stuff. You got to pay attention to this stuff. You got to have your eyes open. You got to have your eyes open. You got to be paying attention. Because it's getting real now. It's getting real. And then we seen the young man. We seen the young man take the lives. The young man took the lives of a young man took the lives of 3 kids and himself? Look at that. And I think it said because his girlfriend had cheated or his woman had cheated. I don't know if his wife, girlfriend had cheated. Listen. This man will live his whole life. Live his whole life. And we're going to talk about that in a separate video, though. I'm going to do another video. Just split these up. We ain't going to lump everything in one. But I want you to sit with this. I want you to go read it. I want you to make your own assessment. I'm not saying the lady don't have mental health issues. But what I'm saying is this everyday people. This person that we could say have mental health issues was an everyday person. I think the thing said she was an RN or something. It was an everyday person. For you to live this long and you not in an asylum with a straitjacket, and you could get out there on the streets, drive 90 miles an hour and take 6 lives, and you've been out here as an adult in the free reign, that lets you know that could be anybody. That lets you know that that could be anybody and that the human mind is capable of that extreme without a diagnosis. See, we thinking that everybody who do something on that level got to already have a diagnosis, like, and walk around with a sign on their forehead. No, that could be your next door neighbor. That could be your spouse. That could be your boyfriend, your girlfriend. That could be your son or your daughter. You got to recognize that stuff. You got to pay attention to the signs. You got to speak life. You got to have repercussions, consequences. You got to call it out. And you ain't going to get it perfect, but a lot of times we get the opportunity to see the seeds of it before it done took root and sprout, and we'll ignore it. But it's just, let's say, listen, don't play with it now. Do not play with it. Do not play with it. Because see, sometimes you might see somebody controlling, you might see somebody a certain way, and you just say, oh, well, they that way, so, you know, and I'm unhappy in the relationship, so I'm finna start talking to somebody else. You better leave. You better break up and go on about your business. Talking about you finna talk to somebody else because you will wake up dead. If this person had already showed you that they is off their rocker, that they capable of some extremes, you will wake up dead. If you think you just gonna stay with them and then you're going to cheat and do what you want to do on the side, but keep them trying to appease them, thinking that it's going to be hard on you if you leave. No, you better get from around them. If you got to go stay in a shelter, go in that shelter. Because it's better to be in that shelter with air in your lungs than to be in a casket 6 feet under the ground. Listen, do not play with it. And like the Bible says, wherever there's a temptation, there's a way of escape. God ain't gonna put more on you than you can bear. You're gonna see the signs. You're going to see the signs. You got to wake up and smell the foliage in the morning so that you will recognize the signs and you will respond to the signs instead of just being a sitting duck and end up costing yourself everything. You got to do this all the way now. Listen to me. You got to be mindful. You got to be mindful. Because this thing getting real. This thing getting real. And so I'm going to touch on these topics and, you know, read up on some of the articles. And this right here, this is just a headline talk. As you go and read into it, and I want you to make your own assessment, not for the comments, just for yourself to learn. Where's your mental at? The person you're dealing with, where they mental at? What messages are you sending to people? What are you reinforcing? What are you tolerating? What are you doing? What are you feeding? Because see, toxicity feel good. Because if we operating from a certain space and it don't get shut down, it don't get checked, we'll keep operating from that space because we get attention for it, because it's being rewarded. And so if the good is fed, the good will repeat. If the bad is fed, the bad will repeat. But sometimes when we operate from the wrong state, we get more attention from that than we do from the good. And so we would end up being a good person operating bad, because the bad is what gets the attention and the recognition of where, and when you happy-go-lucky, you feel like you're being overlooked, you're being ignored. But then when you act a donkey, now you get all this argument, you get this back and forth, you get this attention, you get this right here. And so it reinforces it. The same thing happened with certain children. It's not that they bad, it's that they get the most attention from the teacher or from their parents when they act up. But when they being good, they feel like Casper the Ghost. So we have to recognize and reward the behaviors we want to see repeated. And the stuff we want to be axed out, we got to check it with an iron fist, and we got to stand on what we stand on. And we cannot let our children, our spouse, our lover, our friend, our boss, our coworker, our pastor, our whoever get away with Nathan. Everything got to be shut down. Everything got to be checked. Because you create the environment in your life based on what you stop, what you allow, and what you reinforce. That's the quote Dr. Phil Producer stole from me, when it say you teach people how to treat you based on what you stop, what you allow, and what you reinforce. And so here's the thing, because every behavior has an antecedent behavior. So you're going to see something right before. Now, not in every single case, but it's certain things that have to be understood. So it's kind of like, if you have not, it's like this right here. If you, I'm gonna paint a picture for you. If you fornicating and you fornicate and you don't catch a disease, you don't get pregnant, and it felt good. It felt like a release. You got some attention. You felt appreciated. You felt loved. And you fornicated, right? You met somebody, you talked to them, y'all hung out, you went back to somebody's house, y'all did whatever. You know it's wrong. If there are no repercussions, then you do it again. Guess what? The 14th time you do it, it's with Ted Bundy. Now you wake up dead. What are you doing in your life that you know you should not be doing, but you have not received any repercussions of the action, so you still doing it? You keep cheating on your taxes. They might not say nothing to you till year 10. And then everything you done got in your life, you lose it all. Because you kept trying. Because nothing wasn't happening. Nothing wasn't happening. You keep scamming. You keep cheating. You keep lying on your job. You keep cheating your job. You keep doing. Eventually, it catches up to you. You got to live your life in the dark as though it's a light shining on you. And it's the light of God shining on you. And you're giving grace for being human. But if you take that grace for granted and you keep doing what you're doing, eventually you're going to pay a price. So this young lady, and not to say her case, because it could not have been the case, she could just be a horrible driver. But I doubt it's just being a horrible driver when you're going 90 miles an hour. Your foot ain't made out of steel. So that's something else going on. And she obviously operating from a place of brokenness, from a place of been abused, been abandoned, been bullied, been mistreated, a lot of pain to be able to do that. For you to put your life and other people's life at risk by going 90 miles an hour in probably a 45 mile an hour zone, you operating from a very broken, toe up, messed up place. And at the end of the day, the repercussions gonna come. You got to get sat down so you don't take nobody else's life. And what we got to understand is, where are we operating from? How fast we driving in our life? I ain't talking about literally, but what you doing in your life? That fornication, that scamming, that theft, them lies, that cheating. What are you doing in your life that you have not been sat down about yet that you need to stop? Who in your life are you reinforcing negative behavior? Your mama, your daddy, your sister, your brother, your friend, your spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, co-worker, pastor. What behaviors are you accepting and reinforcing in your life that eventually gonna cost you or cost them? Come on now. When you see stuff like this happening in the world, don't just look at it and say, oh man, woe is them. Oh man, ooh, that's bad. You got to look at it and you got to apply it to yourself. You got to get the lesson. You got to say, okay, Lord, where are you talking to me at? Okay, Lord, what am I doing? That's my 13 crashes. That the next time I'm finna crash out. Okay. All right. Okay. I've been doing that, and I've been graced. I've been getting away with it. I know it's wrong. I need to check myself right there, because eventually one day it's gonna wake up and I'm gonna have to pay a price, and that price might be a price I can't recover from. It might be too late. Okay. All right. I've been doing that right there. You know what? One day I'm gonna wake up and that's gonna cost me, and that's gonna be a price I can't afford to pay. See, sit down and evaluate your life. What's your 13 crashes? Where you crashing in your life that is not costing you any consequences right now, but you know it's wrong. But you know you shouldn't be doing it. That's the lesson you got to get. Hey, this is Tony Gasson. God bless you. We'll talk soon.